Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to one of the cult-like followers of President Obama. Oh, Senator Corker, you really stepped in it. And Wolf Blitzer, I'm going to explain to you why you are the enemy of the American people. I'm Randall Terry. This is Voice of Resistance. Welcome to the program, friend. My name is Randall Terry, and we're going to have fun today because we're going to explain to Wolf Blitzer, probably he won't ever see this episode, he might, but we're going to explain to him why he is the enemy of the American people and why his friends at CNN, most of them, are in fact the enemy of the American people. Now, for those of you who don't know what's going on, President Trump tweeted something about the press being the enemy of the American people, and of course it really rankled some of the journalists. And I'm going to play a clip from CNN where Wolf Blitzer and two other CNN correspondents are talking about President Trump's reaction. There's several things in this that we're going to focus on, but I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna focus on one of them, then I'll go into the whole enemy thing. So here we go.
Fall on the political spectrum, and I think that's, as David said, what you're seeing in the coverage is a lot of scrutiny of what actually happened, and he would rather just attack the media for daring to do our jobs, which is to kind of evaluate what he's doing.
But it's so unoriginal, too. I mean, there's no president or political figure who likes the media. And so he's trying to outdo Nixon.
It's one thing not to like the media. We've all worked at, in this news business for a long time. Everybody's always criticizing us and not happy with our coverage, whether it was President Clinton or President Bush or they're all criticized. But it's another thing to say that, it's not North Korea, it's not Iran, it's not Russia, it's not China. It's journalists like us who are the enemy of the American people.
One of the things that bothers me most about the president is I don't even take what he's saying seriously. It's that he's so casual about throwing out language, and that you really undermine the presidency when you do that, because there will be a time after Donald Trump, believe it or not, and he is doing damage to this notion of do we believe what the president says. But we live in an environment where social media principally allows so much hyperbole that now the president engages in it and it becomes kind of the bloodstream of our public discourse, where you could say something that over the top and that it would be the president of the United States who says it, and I don't take it seriously, which is a problem too, because he's not really being serious when he says it. It's a shame.
But a lot of people do take it seriously,
That's the problem.
And it's having an impact.
A lot of his supporters believe that we are the enemy of the American people, and that is really, really an awful situation. We are not the enemy of the American people. We love the American people. All right, guys, thanks very much. President Trump says...
All right. Now, there was one thing that I wonder if you caught, and I'm going to play it again because every time I watch this, I start to laugh. It's when Wolf Blitzer is saying that, all presidents have had problems with us and they're angry with us, whether it's President Clinton or President Bush, or play the clip.
The media, we've all worked at, in this news business for a long time. Everybody's always criticizing us and not happy with our coverage, whether it was President Clinton or President Bush or they're all criticized. But it's another thing to say.
Just play the clip one more time. Go ahead, play it.
And not happy with our coverage, whether it was President Clinton or President Bush or they're all criticized.
He could not bring himself to say the name Obama. Now, Wolf Blitzer is a skilled liar, but even he knew that he was going to have the fact checkers going back. See, Obama never complained about the press. The press were sycophants. Yeah, there were a couple times when he kind of chided them a little bit, but he loved the press. They fawned over him. They did not ask him hard questions. They did not ask him hard follow-up questions. And whenever any rogue journalist did, they were openly scorned and scolded and perhaps not even ever asked back to a press conference. He could not bring himself to say that President Obama complained, because he didn't. So let's use that as our jumping off point, all right? Why, Wolf, you and your compatriots are enemies of the American people? It's because President Obama didn't criticize you. I think he makes a good point. I think one of the points that he made that actually is valid is that presidents want the press to give them good coverage. Presidents don't want bad coverage. No one wants bad coverage. I've been in the media more than most people alive and more than a lot of politicians, okay? You can go back 30 years of stories in the New York Times, Washington Post, wherever, Time Magazine. So I know what it's like to get bad press, and I know what it's like to get honorable and fair press. And I prefer honorable and fair press. So presidents do have a bit of a problem, or rather a bit of a desire wanting good press. But when Obama was trading cold, hard cash with a terrorist nation named Iran, where was the media? When Obama was signing one of the worst deals regarding Iran's nuclear program in the history of the human race, where was the media? Where is the media on, let's say child killing? Oh, Wolf, let me explain to you why you're an enemy of the American people. If you were a journalist in Germany, Wolf Blitzer, if you were a German journalist in 1942 and you got a tour of a concentration camp and you knew what was going on, but you were so committed to the ideology of the Third Reich and you had such a disdain and a contempt for Jews that you really never told the truth, would you be an enemy of the German people? Well, actually, not all of them, because there were a lot of anti-Semitic Germans, and there was people in Germany that wanted Jews either dead or imprisoned or in a slave labor force. So in that aspect, it's maybe a little unfair to say that you, Wolf, would have been the enemy of all the German people, but you certainly would have been an enemy to freedom-loving, God-fearing, life-loving German people. And that's what you are. You're not an enemy of all the American people. Let's be clear. You're an enemy of the unborn American people. You're an enemy of truth and justice, which is in the end always going to be better for America. The very fact that you know the truth about the abortion mills in America and you are so cowardly and so godless that you won't report it makes you an enemy. An enemy of righteousness, an enemy of justice, an enemy of truth, an enemy of life, and dare I say it, an enemy of God. Because if you study the scriptures, that's what the enemies of God do. They oppose God. They try and overturn his laws, ignore his laws, rebel against his laws. That's what you do, Wolf. I got to tell you one other quick story about Wolf Blitzer and I. Back in 2010, I managed the campaign of a woman named Missy Smith. Missy was running for the U.S. House of Representatives, the shadow seat actually in Washington, D.C. It doesn't have voting privileges. It was held by Maxine Waters at the time. And I believe it was Maxine Waters. Anyway, Missy was running these commercials and she was running them. I cut the commercials in my studio. I wrote the commercials and we made the buys on big TV stations in Washington, D.C., including Saturday Night Live, David Letterman. We were creating a firestorm showing dead babies on TV and saying that Obama was a baby killer. Well, it got a lot of attention. And CNN did a 3-minute plus story on it. Wolf Blitzer was the guy in the studio and the correspondent was doing this coverage. And I'm in the story and Missy's in the story. Well, the color left Wolf Blitzer's face. He could not speak ill enough of these commercials. That's not journalism. That shows he's a pro-abort. It made me wonder if he'd ever had one of his babies killed or if he'd ever driven a relative or a friend to the abortion mill to kill their baby. Maybe he was having a wave of guilt go over him. His reaction was bizarre. But they never put that online. If you go to CNN.com, every story, every interview that they do, it's all there. But they made a decision that they were going to bury that 3-minute story as fast as they could and as far away as they could. It was as if it never happened. Never showed up again. Didn't air again. Didn't run on the CNN website. You know why? Because they're enemies of the truth. That's why. Wolf, I'm going to be back in a minute. I'm going to explain to you other ways that you are an enemy of the American people. I'm just warming up, buddy. Don't go away, friends. You fellow lovers of righteousness and dare I say, never mind. I'll be right back. Warrior Guitars. Without question, the best guitar I've ever played, heard, or seen is a Warrior. The owner of Warrior, Jay Dran, has an incredible testimony of redemption and healing. God gave him the vision to start Warrior Guitars and a passion to make the best guitars in the world. They only make about 120 guitars a year, each one by hand. Maybe one of them could be yours, or a once-in-a-lifetime gift for someone you love.
The one thing that I can tell you is this is the most finely crafted guitar I have ever held. I've played a lot of guitars, I own a lot of guitars, and although the quality is exceptional on all of them, this is by far the most finely crafted instrument I own or have ever played. And I'm glad I own it.
Contact my friends at Warrior Guitar. Tell them Randall Terry sent you. Today, many so-called Christian intellectuals believe that the God of evolution used billions of years of death and destruction to evolve the bodies of the first human beings. Then, they simply declare the theory of evolution as fact to justify their unproven scientific fallacies. By the grace of God, more and more Catholics are rejecting this modern-day mythology in favor of the traditional doctrine of creation, as recorded by the Bible, and believed and taught by all the fathers and doctors of the Church. To find out how sound theology and natural science confirm the sacred history of Genesis, visit the Colby Center for the Study of Creation, and be sure to check out our bookstore, which has titles like I Have Spoken to You from Heaven, A Catholic Defense of Creation in 6 Days, and A Catholic Assessment of Evolutionary Theory. That's the Colby Center for the Study of Creation. Welcome back, friends. Wolf, let me explain to you another way that you are the enemy of the American people. Oh, and by the way, it's funny when somebody says, we're not the enemy of the American people. We love the American people. You're enemies of the American people. That's funny, because when they have to tell you that, they probably have a problem. It's not that you love the American people. You hold the average American in contempt, Wolf. Now, friends, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm a fairly intelligent person, all right? I've got a bunch of degrees. I read a lot. And I would venture to guess that I could probably kick Wolf Blitzer's butt in a debate on any number of issues. He sits in front of a camera and he reads a teleprompter, all right? But most of you watching this show are way smarter than Wolf Blitzer. And the reason you are is because the Bible says the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Wolf Blitzer is articulate. He's well-spoken. That doesn't mean he's intelligent. All right? He holds the average American in contempt because his worldview is that of an elitist, left-winger, baby killer, pro-homosexual marriage, one open border. See, in other words, the things that are part of the essence of Christian society, he opposes. And if you believe in those things, he holds you in contempt. He thinks you're one of these backwoods, tongue-talking Christians who clings to your Bible and your religion and your guns, and you just don't know any better, you poor little soul, and we're going to help you, and that's why we're here to tell you what you need to think. That's how he holds us. And you're smarter than him because you're not duped, because you believe in right and wrong, because you understand that there is such a thing as good and evil. And here's another reason you're an enemy, Wolf. You're not bipartisan. True journalism, which is all but dead now. This is not a journalistic show, by the way. This is an opinion show. But true journalism is, here's what happened. And then I go and interview this person, and then I interview that person, and I say, okay, there's the facts, folks. There's both sides of the story. They did dozens and dozens of stories on a whore, Stormy Daniels. Meanwhile, this news is coming out on the Hillary collusion with Russia. Not Trump collusion with Russia, Hillary collusion with Russia. And is CNN covering it? Nope. Which means that they are a political action committee for the Democratic Party. That's why you're an enemy, Wolf. Because you're a partisan hack. And that's why you couldn't even bring yourself to say that Obama complained about you, because he never did. You were his mouthpiece. I'll be right back, people. Don't go away. Have Muslim terrorists hijacked the peaceful religion of Islam? Or is there more to the story? The answer lies in the life of one man, Muhammad, the founder of Islam. Muslim terrorists see themselves inside a 1,400-year-old story, a narrative that focuses on specific events in the life of Muhammad. We are going to look at Muhammad's life using their most sacred literature. We will look at Muhammad at the Battle of Badr. We'll see him deal with those who mock him. We'll see the times when he used deception. We'll witness Muhammad's anti-Semitism. And yes, we will discuss Muhammad and his teachings concerning sex, slavery, and jihad. Friend, if you want to understand Islamic terrorism, get this series today. Warrior guitars. Without question, the best guitar I've ever played, heard, or seen is a Warrior. The owner of Warrior, Jay Dran, has an incredible testimony of redemption and healing. God gave him the vision to start Warrior guitars and a passion to make the best guitars in the world. They only make about 120 guitars a year, each one by hand. Maybe one of them could be yours, or a once-in-a-lifetime gift for someone you love.
The one thing that I can tell you is this is the most finely crafted guitar I have ever held. I've played a lot of guitars, I own a lot of guitars, and although the quality is exceptional on all of them, this is by far the most finely crafted instrument I own or have ever played. And I'm glad I own it.
Contact my friends at Warrior Guitar. Tell them Randall Terry sent you. Welcome back to the program, friend. Hey, by the way, I want to make perfectly clear, I considered and said so out loud that the media was the enemy of the American people for decades. In the late 80s, early 90s, I was interviewed in Dallas, Texas, I think, by CNN National News, all right? And I looked into the camera and I said, Dan Rather, why won't you tell the truth? And I was saying back then that they were the enemies of the American people. When I did a sit-down interview with Dan Rather, one-on-one, I was polite. He was polite, professional. They all are. But I had with me, my daughter and I were there, and I had an aborted baby in a thermos, in a big, like an igloo thermos that was pulled out of a dumpster. Now that baby got a proper burial, which is more than the abortion mill did because it threw its body in a dumpster. And I showed him the baby. And I said, why won't you show the American public the truth? You were in Vietnam. You were a journalist in Vietnam. You showed the truth, what was happening in the war, and it changed people's minds about the war. Why don't you show the truth about these aborted babies? He never did. You know why? He's a liar. He's following evil spirits, evil deeds. If you support child killing, the Bible says those who love death hate God, or those who hate God, hate him, love death. That's why we call them God haters. Okay? If you are prepared to murder an unborn child, you hate God because that child is made in the image of God. It's actually an attack on the image of God. So, yeah, you're an enemy, Wolf, and I've called you an enemy back when Obama was president and when Bush was president and when Clinton was president. You've been an enemy the whole time because you're a bunch of left-wing, God-hating, socialist-leaning, some of you outright communist, baby-killing, pro-homosexual perverts. So, yeah, you're an enemy. Need I say more? Let me take a break. When we come back, quickly talk about us being in a cult. What have we come to? What have we come to? Bob Corker, what an embarrassment. And I know he's catching hell for this, okay? Because he's from Tennessee. And there's a lot of Christians in Tennessee that do not appreciate someone saying that they're in a cult. I'll be right back. Warrior guitars. Without question, the best guitar I've ever played, heard, or seen is a Warrior. The owner of Warrior, Jay Dran, has an incredible testimony of redemption and healing. God gave him the vision to start Warrior Guitars and a passion to make the best guitars in the world. They only make about 120 guitars a year, each one by hand. Maybe one of them could be yours, or a once-in-a-lifetime gift for someone you love.
The one thing that I can tell you is this is the most finely crafted guitar I have ever held. I've played a lot of guitars, I own a lot of guitars, and although the quality is exceptional on all of them, this is by far the most finely crafted instrument I own or have ever played. And I'm glad I own it.
Contact my friends at Warrior Guitar. Tell them Randall Terry sent you. Friend, we have a series that will help you and those you love to have an impact on this country. It's called Insurrecta Nex. That's Latin for revolution against the killing of innocent people. This is the history, the philosophy, and the theology of social revolution in America. We look at the Stamp Act, the Boston Tea Party, the abolition of slavery, the abolition of child labor, women's voting rights, the civil rights movement. All of them have this in common: courage, sacrifice, dedication, and in-your-face tactics and rhetoric. That's one of the reasons that we've been losing the culture wars the last 40 years, is because the bad guys are using these tactics and we aren't. We will send you this 14-part TV series along with these manuals for students, a teacher's facilitator guide for only $40. Go to 304-289-3700, 304-289-3700. Welcome back to the program, friend. U.S. Senator Bob Corker from Tennessee, explaining to us in very pedantic, condescending terms that we're cult-like.
We're in a strange place. I mean, it's almost, it's becoming a cultish thing, isn't it? It's not a good place for any party to end up with a cult-like situation as it relates to a president that happens to be purportedly of the same parties.
What do you say to somebody like that? First of all, he's clearly not a very religious man, because he can't be. Because anyone who's religious and has studied Christianity and studied cults would know that that was a stupid thing to say, and it's not true. Bob, let me explain this to you, okay, in simple terms that you can understand. We hate the swamp. We hate what you have helped make this country. You haven't fought for righteousness and justice. You've gone along. When's the last time you made a headline for really opposing Islamic immigration? For really saying that Islam is a threat, that child killing is murder? When is the last time you made a headline just saying the truth, Not even introducing a piece of legislation. So you'll run your mouth on TV saying that because we support the president, we're cult-like. Look, we're sick of the swamp. There is nobody who agrees with every single syllable that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, including Donald Trump, I might tell you, and his children, okay? That's life. I say things, I talk partly for a living, and yes, sometimes I say stuff I wish I hadn't said. That's not the issue. The issue is he's trying to denuclearize North Korea. He's trying to open up oil drilling in Anwar and get the Keystone Pipeline going. He's trying to protect our southern border. He's trying to keep Muslim immigrants from coming into the country. What are you doing about that, Bob? We're not in a cult. If there's a cult, it's the cult of stupidity. And maybe you play a key role. No, I'm sorry, that was unkind. You're just really, I wish that there was somebody who could take this man out in the next election. Because we don't need a senator like them. We don't need senators, U.S. senators like John McCain, all right? And notice that the media wants to talk to people like Bob Corker because he's a turncoat Republican. The only Republicans that could get good press with the left-wing media are bad Republicans. President Trump is trying, and yes, he's bombastic, and yes, his style is new to you, but you know what, Bob? He's got style. He's got class, and you don't. And what you are rhymes with class. You dumb. Shouldn't have said that, Bob. I gotta go. you.